And I'm Scott McGee, and not only are police talking, they're letting us inside the holding cell in the city jail where Raynette Turner was found dead earlier this week. News 12's Ty Milburn has the exclusive story you'll only see on 12. You're watching News 12. I'm Scott McGee, and the latest now on the prison break. Convicted killer and prison escapee David Sweat. He's not going to be going back to the upstate prison where he broke free. No, instead he could be coming to Sing Sing prison in Ossining. Let's show you some of the video we had from earlier today. Now, this was right after it happened, this crane collapsing, and the governor told us late this afternoon that it was the vibrating hammer. There was a malfunction, and what that malfunction was, that is what we're still waiting to find out. All right, the latest now on Vote 2016. Another week, another Trump shocker. The GOP nominee unveiling his anti-terrorism plan in Ohio today. That's not the shocker. The details to defeat radical Islam coming on the same day, though, that the Wall Street Journal came out with an editorial urging the GOP to dump Trump if he doesn't improve by Labor Day. That was shocking. Jackson Pollock, Vincent van Gogh, Pablo Picasso, Bodie the Goat. If you think one of those names doesn't belong on that list of famous painters, well, you would be wrong. Because Bodie lives in Albuquerque Botanical Garden in New Mexico, and it turns out he has a passion for painting. Now, people who don't like his work really get his goat, as a matter of fact. It's not just a hobby. The park's management says it's a way for him to exercise his brain, and now they're looking to auction off some of his better work, and look at it. It's fantastic. In fact, it's not bad deal. It's about $40 for a painting. Now to the forests of California we go, where I think a certain bear is on the fast track to the naughty list. This bear gives Santa a little sniff, then bam, a little left pawed shiver right to the back of the head. Ouch. Mind you, a photographer put the toy Santa in the forest near Los Angeles to see how wild animals react. And now we know next year we'll see what happens perhaps to a Grinch. Maybe that'll go a little better for the bear.
That was an unbearable video.
He'll be here all week, folks. Don't forget to tip your waitress. All right, let's talk about weather, though. Let's do that as well. Mr. Smalls, we had talked a little bit earlier before the show about the movement itself and the fact that it has a website, but you felt like that website doesn't really accurately describe what the movement is. Can you tell me what you feel like the Black Lives Matter movement represents? It is hard to believe 10 years have gone by since Hurricane Katrina hit. Now, many of us will never forget seeing these pictures. It came out of the Gulf Coast. Well, News 12's Ty Milburn spoke to a Port Chester woman who didn't just see those images, she lived them, and the devastation as well. You are watching News 12's special live coverage of Governor Andrew Cuomo's State of the State address. Hello, everyone. I'm Scott McGee. Now, shortly, the governor will address state lawmakers and members of the public at the Empire State Convention Center in Albany. Let's take a look at the center right now. We've got, there we go, it's pretty quiet at this point. This is Newsmakers. I'm Scott McGee. A group of inmates at Sing Sing are on their own yellow brick road to redemption with a revolutionary program called Rehabilitation Through the Arts. But RTA, as it's known, isn't just some prison pastime. Studies show it significantly reduces recidivism rates. Well, joining us today to talk about that program and why anyone would choose to spend hours of their time in a maximum security prison is the woman behind it, Catherine Vokins. Well, we got a rare glimpse behind bars at Sing Sing, where hardened criminals and their relationships with their families are being rehabilitated through the power of the arts. John, have you seen, we talked to newsmakers over the last few weeks. You begrudgingly said that if Trump is your nominee, you would not vote for him, you would vote for Hillary.
I did not say that grudgingly. I actually said it happily. Go ahead.
But what I would ask you...
And I caught a lot of flack from my Republicans, and I will continue to do so.
But have you heard anything? We've talked about how it appears that Donald Trump has become more disciplined over the last few weeks, whether that's just a veneer or if it's real. Have you heard anything that would change your mind? Verizon set to restart negotiations with its striking union employees. Thousands of workers across the East Coast walked off the job last month after working without a contract since August. In Westchester, union members continue to walk that picket line outside a Verizon store on Central Avenue in Hartsdale. Now, job security, a major sticking point, among other issues. You're watching News 12. I'm Scott McGee. Caught on camera and up to no good. These boys appearing to be a part of the Hasidic community, taking that Israeli flag from a home in Spring Valley. Now, it's not clear what that motivation was, but police say the theft could have to do with how some members of the Hasidic community feel towards Israel. News 12's Rebecca Solomon has that story. It is graduation season, and this weekend, West Point's class of 2016 will hear the motivational words of the Vice President of the U.S. Joe Biden will give the commencement speech at this year's graduation at the U.S. Military Academy. This will be Biden's second graduation address at West Point. The last time he spoke was back in 2012. West Point's class of 2016 will walk across that stage on Saturday. Now here's News 12's Walt Fowler. He's got sports. Thanks very much for that, Walter. Well, here's what's trending tonight at News12.com. Presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has a big decision to make about his running mate, making perfect fodder for Saturday Night Live.
Nikki Haley.
Also not interested.
Ted Cruz.
Hard no.
Paul Ryan.
He said not right now, but he will see you in hell.
Hey-oh, no, it won't be an easy choice, folks, but that would be Daryl Hammond on the left as Trump and Bobby Moynihan as Chris Christie on the right as they try to vet potential picks. The sketch skewering not only Trump, but several of his former Republican rivals. In the end, Chris Christie there. Angles for the job before Trump picks Dr. Ben Carson. What will happen in real life? We'll have to wait and see.
The material for SNL
It's going to
just
be
endless
next
this
week.
year,
It'll be the
though.
Democrats, don't you worry. Janine, and this is the place right here. This is where Ellen Brody was detoured on a very dark night. She'd never been here before. Headlights coming toward her. She doesn't see us very well. And that's what started this inexplicable and tragic chain of events that have affected so many people. It all started with a detour. 6 lives lost at this Valhalla Railroad crossing when a Metro North train T-boned an SUV that had driven onto the track. 5 men, all on their way home during the evening commute, were killed inside that train. 15 more people seriously injured.
Multiple injuries, trying to educate everybody down now.
The driver of the SUV, 49-year-old Ellen Brody, was killed instantly in the fiery explosion. Brody was on her way to Scarsdale via the Taconic Parkway when she was detoured by a head-on collision that sent traffic onto Commerce Street. When she arrived at this railroad crossing, an intersection she'd likely never used before, the railroad crossing gate came down on her SUV. Brody got out, walked to the back of the car and tried to free it from the crossing gate arm, then got back in, paused, and rolled forward. A process that took about 30 seconds, and that's when train 659, traveling at about 48 miles per hour, collided with the SUV, pushing it 1,000 feet down the tracks. 13 40-foot segments of the third rail entered the first car, causing most, if not all, of the deaths and serious injuries inside the train.
If the driver's seat is here, the third rail would have come in behind the driver's seat, sort of at an angle, and by the time it had come through the other side, it's now on top of the right rear tire.
Passengers then fled the burning train, most of them walking south into Valhalla, where they waited for a ride home, many not knowing the true seriousness of what happened until they turned on the evening news. And we are still waiting for that final NTSB report on this incident. But Ellen Brody was one of the people involved in this incident. There was another person, the man who was driving behind her. News 12's Tim Cassidy is one of the people who talked to him on that night. And Tim, you've got more on his story. You're watching News 12. I'm Scott McGee. Well, folks, do you remember this scene? That fire scorched Blauvelt State Park in Rockland County some 20 months ago. And then there was this. This was Ulster County just 2 months ago. Frankly, we got lucky we didn't lose any homes here. But according to the experts, the way we manage our forests, they are only fueling the fire. It was a scene that looked like it was right out of Hollywood. That's the one thing they got to worry about, is if this thing kicks up, if the wind kicks up, it takes off into the canopy of the trees. But this forest fire wasn't burning in some far-off corner of the Southwest. It was racing across Clousland Mountain in Rockland County.
Definitely scary.
Right at Adam Jordan's house.
It was like a ring of fire all around here.
He could only pull out his iPhone and hope.
You know, you couldn't sleep, and of course, my family living here is going crazy. They wanted to just like leave.
According to the Rockland County Sheriff, the fire started at a popular hangout spot for teenagers with a campfire at a place called Tappan Zee Rock. Now, it scorched about 400 acres of Blauvelt State Park and threatened a lot of homes. but it was pushed by cooler November winds, so it stayed low, never reaching the canopy of the trees. And now, 18 months later, you look at it, you'd never know it happened. But on the ground,
And ecologically speaking, it doesn't look like it did any damage. It wasn't an unusually intense fire.
Gabe Chapin is a forest ecologist for the Nature Conservancy. It's his job to monitor fire risk of state forests. It's a tricky job because there's something most people don't realize.
They depend on fire.
Only you.
Yes, while Smokey warned us about the dangers of forest fires, it's also true that most forests need to burn.
Because we've sort of taken fire out of this landscape in a lot of ways, we've allowed the fuel to accumulate on the forest floor. So when a fire does burn, in many cases it burns much hotter and is much more severe.
And this is what he's talking about.
Here's an area where you've got a lot of trees that have fallen down. You've got a lot of branches and leaf litter that's accumulated on the ground. Fire can really get a hold and be difficult to contain.
That's exactly what happened in Ulster County back in May. A stubborn wildfire scorched more than 2,000 acres of the Shawangum Ridge State Forest, threatening dozens of homes.
That burned very intensely.
But what about us in the Hudson Valley?
We've been really lucky that there really haven't been homes that have been destroyed recently from wildfires.
And it's Gabe Chapin's job to make sure our luck doesn't run out. Lighting fires that burn off that excess fuel on cool, calm days when there's little risk it will spread. The thing is,
People don't want to smell smoke in their backyard. They don't want to see that little bit of ash fall out.
but
There absolutely is a risk to doing nothing.
Adam Jordan has a reminder of that risk just a few feet from his house.
It is much more real when you're still seeing all the burn marks.
But he can also enjoy the real benefits of a fire. There is now a much lower chance of this area burning again. And remember that iPhone video? Well, sound from that recording is now part of this song by his band Glint, appropriately titled While You Sleep. But for the rest of us, while we sleep,
We're just increasing the likelihood that we're going to have more severe wildfires. And at some point we really could see homes burning down and some real destruction.
well, while forest ecologists say a devastating wildfire is pretty unlikely right now, a lack of rain this summer already has the Hudson Valley listed as abnormally dry. You just never know what's going to happen.